This is not breaking news. This is not a scandal. This is not about one person. This is about something quieter and far more dangerous. Right now, you are being told everything is fine. The numbers look calm. The markets look steady. The language sounds reassuring. But stability can be manufactured. And when it is, it doesn't feel like danger. It feels like relief. What you're living inside is not collapse. It's postponement. A system designed to delay pain, not remove it. To shift cost forward. To borrow credibility from the future. Nothing has gone wrong yet. That's the point. Because the most fragile systems don't break loudly. They hold, they absorb, they smile. Until they don't. If you've ever wondered how a crisis forms without announcing itself, stay with me. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And what comes next only works because of what just felt normal. What actually runs this system now is not growth. It's not productivity. It's not even confidence. It's tolerance. Tolerance for volatility. Tolerance for debt. Tolerance for uncertainty that would have been unthinkable a decade ago. The system doesn't need to be stable anymore. It just needs you to keep participating. Markets don't require truth. They require belief that someone, somewhere, still has control. And that belief is being stretched. Policy is no longer built to resolve pressure. It's built to apply it strategically, unevenly, just enough to force movement without triggering panic. This isn't chaos. It's calibrated instability. Short-term relief is used as proof of success. Long-term cost is treated as a hypothetical problem, something abstract, something future. And when pressure does build, it doesn't surface where you expect. It migrates into prices, into wages, into debt, into credibility itself. What matters is not whether the system looks strong today. It's what it's quietly training itself to survive. Because once a system learns to live on borrowed time, it stops knowing how to live any other way. And that's where the shift begins. There was a time when economic shock was treated as failure. A signal to pull back, to stabilize, to repair trust. That time is gone. What changed wasn't a law or a vote. It was a habit. Volatility stopped being an emergency and became a tool. Debt stopped being a warning and became a lever. Uncertainty stopped being a risk and became a strategy. Before, policy tried to smooth outcomes. Now, it tests limits. Before, credibility was protected because it took decades to build. Now, it's spent for speed. And the most dangerous part is how normal this feels. You're told disruption is strength. That unpredictability is leverage. That short-term wins justify long-term exposure. And slowly, almost invisibly, the baseline moves. Things that would have triggered alarms now barely register. Numbers that once meant trouble are reframed as resilience. Delay is mistaken for durability. This is how systems drift, not by collapsing, by adapting to stress they were never designed to carry. Because when pressure doesn't break the system, it rewires it. And the longer that goes unnoticed, the harder it is to stop. What looks like control right now is actually acclimation. And acclimation always comes before shock. Then the system flinched. Not gradually. Not politely. All at once. In 48 hours, $5 trillion vanished. Not from government accounts. From markets people use as proof that everything is fine, indexes fell hard, fast. The kind of drop that normally follows something external. A war, a pandemic, a natural disaster. This time, it followed an announcement. A single policy move reframed as strength, as leverage, as control, and when the numbers turned red, the explanation was ready. This is temporary. This is necessary. This is the cost of winning. Markets recovered. That's the part you're meant to remember. What you're not meant to focus on is what happened underneath that recovery. Contracts rewritten. costs rerouted, risk redistributed away from balance sheets and toward households. If this sounds familiar, it should, because the shock wasn't the story. The shock was the test. To see how much volatility the system could absorb, how quickly fear could be neutralized, how short the memory could be made. If you're still watching, you already feel it. Because the recovery didn't answer the question. It postponed it. And the next phase only exists because this one didn't break anything yet. Here's the part that never shows up on a chart. When shock hits, the system doesn't absorb it evenly. It channels it. Large institutions don't panic first. They hedge. They delay. They renegotiate. Costs don't disappear. They move. They move from producers to suppliers, from suppliers to distributors, from distributors to retailers, from retailers to you. This is how the mechanism works. Companies raise prices slowly, not all at once. They shrink packaging. They delay hiring. They cut investment before they cut headlines. Inventory becomes a buffer. Margins become a shield. Time becomes the illusion. And for a while, it works. Markets stabilize because pain hasn't reached the consumer yet. Inflation looks contained because the pass-through isn't finished. Wages rise because labor is scarce, even as productivity stalls. This is why everything feels contradictory, strong and fragile at the same time. The system isn't healthy. It's deferring. Every policy shock creates a backlog of cost. Every delay stacks pressure further down the line. Nothing explodes when the decision is made. It explodes when the buffering runs out. The danger isn't the policy itself. It's the timing gap between cause and consequence. That gap is where confidence lives and where collapse quietly waits. Now the pace changes. Because the buffers are thinning, inventory doesn't last forever. Margins don't stretch indefinitely. Labor doesn't appear on command. At first, the signals are small. A hiring freeze here, a delayed expansion there, guidance quietly lowered, language softened. Then the signals stack. Prices move faster. Not dramatically. Relentlessly, trade slows. Not because demand vanished, because friction multiplied. Investment pauses, not out of fear, out of confusion. No one knows which rule survives the quarter. No one knows which exemption disappears next. No one wants to be first to commit. So capital waits. Job creation slows, not layoffs. Not yet, just absence. And absence is harder to headline. What you're watching is not collapse. It's compression, pressure building inside a system that still looks functional, still reports growth, still posts numbers that can be defended until they can't. Because acceleration doesn't announce itself with a bang. It arrives when delay stops working. And once that threshold is crossed, the system doesn't slow down. It tips. This is where it reaches you. Not as a headline, as a calculation. You notice it when the same paycheck feels thinner, when the refund disappears faster, when prices change between pay periods. Nothing dramatic. Nothing you can point to, just friction. You delay a purchase. You rethink a repair. You hold off one more month. That's not fear. That's adaptation. And millions of those quiet decisions reshape the economy faster than any policy ever could. You're told this is resilience, that households are strong, that consumers are holding up. But what's really happening is absorption. You are absorbing volatility that used to sit elsewhere. You are carrying uncertainty the system no longer buffers, and you don't get to opt out. You just adjust. If this feels familiar, it's because this is how pressure becomes personal, not through panic, through normalization. If you want to understand what comes next, you have to keep watching. Because once the burden shifts to individuals, it rarely shifts back. And the system counts on that. By the time the pressure shows up globally, it's already too late to localize. Trade doesn't fracture cleanly. It misaligns. Supply chains built for predictability are forced to reroute around uncertainty, not once, repeatedly. Allies hedge, not loudly, Quietly, they diversify partners, they shorten exposure, they prepare for a world where commitments can change overnight. This is what instability looks like at scale, not collapse. Contagion. Markets react not to policy itself, but to its reversibility. Every pause teaches caution. Every reversal teaches disbelief. Investment migrates, not away from opportunity. Away from risk it can't price. And when trust erodes internationally, costs rise everywhere. Insurance premiums, shipping delays, currency pressure, none of this feels dramatic on its own. That's the danger. Because once the system becomes global, there is no reset button. There is only adjustment or escalation. And right now, no one is certain which one is coming. That uncertainty doesn't stay abroad. It always finds its way home. From here, the system has three possible paths. Not outcomes, paths. The first is adjustment. Slow, painful, managed, costs surface gradually, prices rise, but stabilize. Growth slows, but survives. The system relearns limits it tried to outrun. The second is erosion, more subtle, more dangerous. Credibility weakens without collapsing. Inflation lingers. Investment stays cautious. Debt grows heavier year by year. Nothing breaks, but nothing fully works either. Living standards stall. Trust thins. The future shrinks quietly. And then there is rupture. This is what happens when delayed costs converge. When buffers expire at the same time, when confidence drops faster than policy can respond, adjustment becomes impossible. Erosion accelerates, and the system snaps into something new. No one knows which path we're on yet. Because all three look identical at the start, that's the final risk of delay. It steals clarity. By the time the direction is obvious, the momentum is already locked in. And the next move won't belong to any single decision maker. It will belong to the system itself. There's a reason this moment feels calm. Systems don't warn you when they're running on borrowed time. They reward you for not asking. Stability becomes the evidence. Recovery becomes the proof. Silence becomes reassurance. But silence is not the absence of risk. It's the absence of feedback. What you're watching is not the end of a cycle. It's the space between cause and consequence. And that space is shrinking. The danger isn't that everything falls apart. It's that it holds together just long enough for the cost to become unavoidable. There is no clean ending to this story. Only thresholds. Once they're crossed, options narrow. Adjustments harden. Choices disappear. If you want to understand what comes after delay, you'll have to keep paying attention. Not to the noise, to the structure underneath it, because the next phase won't announce itself as a crisis. It will arrive as a continuation. If this analysis matters to you, follow what comes next. This isn't a conclusion. It's a warning you're meant to remember when the numbers still look fine.